Welcome back to some Tatarigoroshi. So where we last left off, oh my god, last chapter was fire. Holy shit. Oh my lord, I don't want to explain so much in details. Oh my lord. After the moment Satoko was losing her shit and then Keiichi, you know what? I would feel the same thing for a Keiichi and all of a sudden when when Hinamizawa or the village can't even do shit about the child abuse, and you know what? Keiichi has no choice, but he wants to kill Satoka's uncle. You know what? I would love to see that happen. Oh god, I clicked the fucking window, and anyway, would love to see that happen. So let's continue. I would love to continue more of this action. Mion and the others, having to set up for the Watanagashi festival or something, invited me along, but I refused. Okay, so the Watanagashi festival is is now prepared, but he was like, nope, fuck it. Of course I did. How could they be taking it easy and setting up for a festival in this situation? Mion had a lot of nerve. And then, wow, so he just went back to his house. The first thing I did when I got back was take a shower. Not because I wanted to wash out the sweat, it was because I wanted to be even calmer. I already understood this, but killing that man would be so very easy. The really hard thing would be not getting arrested for it so we could get our peaceful days back. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't easy. Japan's police force have the highest arrest rates in the world. Damn, what the fuck does Japan even have? Did Japan have like serial killers, rapists, domestic abusers, all the shit? I mean, holy fuck. I would need to decisively pull off the perfect crime, and it couldn't be a half-hearted attempt. Still, it wasn't 100%. Even the best police force in the world couldn't have a 100% arrest rate. I've read a lot of articles on trials with people brought up on false charges. They do a lot to determine whether they really were false accusations, but figuring out who the real criminal was is usually out of the question. That meant perfect crimes did exist. In fact, perfect crimes were sort of like works of art. They could even be respected and revered. You just have to look at the in inundation of mystery novels everywhere throughout history. They dealt with all sorts of difficult to solve incidents involving secret rooms and alibis and stuff, but they all wanted to show one thing. They wanted to show the beauty of a perfect crime. There was something divine in the flawlessness of the word perfect. Yes, perfect crimes were skills of the gods, and in that sense, the serial freak deaths they were calling the curse of a Yashiro-sama. I understood they must have been the works of gods. Each one appeared to have been resolved, but they didn't stop it from happening every year. Yeah, skills belonging only to gods, those are perfect crimes. I would be setting up my own crime before Yashiro-sama's series of perfect crimes 4 years in a running. If I were to put it boldly, I was challenging a god. Foolhardiness would be needed to make this decision, but I needed to be calm, cool, colder than ice to put that plan together. Kill him like a flame, but as systematic as ice. Starting now, I need to retain both of those ideas within me. Modeling my crime after a mystery novel wasn't actually a bad thing to focus on. Sometimes kidnappings involving disturbing, original methods that made it into the newspaper were used as a basis for novels after the person was arrested. Stuff like that made it into the news. Day and night, for a very long time, mystery novel authors polished and refined their most fantastic artistic crimes. Imitating that could be a shortcut to planning the perfect crime in a short period of time. Of course, I haven't read enough mystery novels to act all high and mighty about them. The one who really liked mystery novels was my mom. She'd read every well-known mystery novel from overseas, from past to present. Every time she watched mystery shows, she would always criticize them as having cheap tricks or being poorly thought out. You know what? I bet I'm gonna ask you this. I bet you haven't even watched Conan. You know the mystery. You get the point. Poorly thought out. I wonder what the perfect crime would mean to her. What do I think the most well done perfect crime in all the mystery novels I read is? Yeah. Well, you read quite a lot of them, right? I figure you might know a lot about them. It's more fun to read them to find out. If I told you all the tricks right off the bat, they'd be no fun anymore. It wasn't like I was asking for my own amusement. She was deflecting the question, so I would somehow butter her up first and draw out an answer. Of course, Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None is my top recommendation. And Murder on the Orient Express used some great bold tricks too, of course. I didn't see it coming at all. I didn't want to know which novels you liked. I wanted to know about the trick that made you the most surprised. If it was really a perfect trick, the detectives wouldn't be able to solve the case though. That was true. Then there'd be no point. Mystery novels are enjoyable because of the process of the mysteries getting solved. If it was unsolvable, it wouldn't make a very good topic for a novel. I get it. Yeah, you're right. If the main character can't solve it, it wouldn't be much of a story, huh? Was I being too simplistic? A mystery novel was basically a game, which I'm playing right now. They were written so that you can get to the goals so that you could solve them. But I couldn't use something so optimistic. It needed to be the be all end all of tricks so that we could, without a doubt, return to our old lives. By the way, Keiichi, do you understand that truly perfect crimes don't even become stories? Mom looked at me intellectually and grinned impishly. I never gotten to read it, but apparently one time a long time ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. Apparently she was really into it. Don't even become stories? What does that mean? Keiichi, what are the essential parts of the story? A beginning, a middle, and an end? Correct. The beginning, of course, is especially important. If there is no beginning, then the story never starts. Well, yeah, if nothing happened, then nothing would begin. Right. Nothing happened, so there wouldn't even be an incident. Detectives wouldn't be called, so there wouldn't be any mystery. There would be no mystery, so there would be no solution. In other words, it would be the ultimate perfect crime. Wait, wait a second. Could you explain that again? My mom just told me something absurd, and she was saying it so smoothly too, so I kind of tuned her out, but she said something extremely important just now. It's not really that difficult to understand. The incident just has to never come to light, that's all. Just has to never come to light. For example, how about this? Say there's an old man living deep in the forest nobody goes into. Uh-huh. And one day the old man gets killed by an axe. And let's say the criminal was the old man's son. He went to the old man's house and they were drinking together, but they got into a fight and he killed him. What an extremely cheap plot. It was an impulsive crime without a bit of planning. It was pretty far from a perfect crime. But Keiichi, the house was really, really deep in this forest, so deep in the mountains that nobody would ever go out that far. Then his son would go back to town and say that the old man was doing fine. What about that is a perfect crime? Heiichi, this incident would only begin when it was found out that the old man was killed. If nobody ever visited the old man's house after that, that beginning would never occur. The beginning would never occur. Ooh. So basically the story wouldn't start. The incident wouldn't come to light and they wouldn't call in detectives. And nobody would be suspicious in the first place, so there'd be no mystery. They'd think the old man was still living by himself deep in the forest, and the old man's face would appear in the sky, and that would be it. Huh. Something like that, you know? That's amazing. That's a pretty great trick. A pretty great trick. But it wouldn't be a novel. Mystery novels are for entertainment, after all. Unless I'm looking at freaking mystery manga, of course. They can't be instruction manuals for perfect crimes. What? I was trying hard to talk cheerfully to fool her, but inside I was excited. Special tools, strange geography, mysterious drugs, traps involving huge sums of cash. None of them were needed for perfect crimes. The important thing was that there wasn't a beginning. As long as the incident didn't come to light, it would be fine. Speaking broadly, if I could kill him without anyone finding out, and dispose of the corpse in somewhere no one could find, it would basically already be a perfect crime. Of course, if someone up and vanished one day, all of a sudden, people would get suspicious. But that didn't apply to this man. Last year, after their aunt died, he ran away from the village in fear of a Yashiro-sama. When the night of Watanagashi came around again, everyone would have to think that he ran away in fear again. I mean, he had been living with a lover of his in town. No matter what it felt like when he vanished, no one would be suspicious. People hated him, after all. No one would care where he went if he disappeared. When I thought about it like that, it got easier and easier to imagine killing him. There was no point in thinking inside my house anymore. I left, getting my bike out of the garage. For now, it didn't matter where I was going. I just rode through the wind, trying to calm my excitement by feeling the cool air on my body. Where I'd kill him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I had just had those 4 things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide that I shivered. I'd been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long-ass period of time. But if I could just get these little things in order, I could put it into motion. Today was Saturday. Yeah, my favorite fucking day right here. I would have to kill him on the night of Watanagashi. So as long as I was standing in for a Yashiro-sama, I only had 24 hours remaining. Satoko, just hang on for 24 more hours. I can't even imagine having to suffer through even more, but please, hold out for a little longer. I know you can't even last another second, I know that. But please, just hold out. Your Nini will save you for sure. Outside, it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon, evening was still a long way off. I looked at the sky. At some point, it had gotten cloudy. What the hell is this music? Looked at the sky, at some point it got cloudy. Come to think of it, as I left the house, I heard on the TV that the weather forecast was calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. The sky was the color of lead. If I heard a little bit of thunder, I definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. My first destination was school. Before explaining why I was going there, I needed to explain what method for killing that man I had to decide upon. I decided that the most suitable death, the one I needed to give him, was the same as last year's curse, the same as the punishment their aunt had received, being beaten to death. Wouldn't beating him to death be somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable. I mean, you could get a freaking cleaver if you want. But this was something I had chosen after a lot of thought. You just needed to think realistically. The law, it prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. So the blades available to me, even though long enough, were limited to things shorter than a ruler. You can probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. In that case, using a weapon with reach would be far more effective. It might not have the same precision, but you just had to hit the guy until you killed him. Both options resulted in death. With that settled, what is the weapon with the most terrifying force behind it that is also easy to carry around? By this point, you should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. Yes! This is manhunt time. I don't need to explain how terrifying a metal baseball bat can be as a weapon. Of special note, is the fact that you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon, but there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. I will speak about it later. After school that Saturday, my classmates were still having fun playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would be the same as always, so nobody would think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to a sports store looking for a metal bat, it would definitely be suspicious. I can't let there be a beginning to the story, so I needed to be really careful even about that. That left school at a location at which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious. I would acquire the weapon. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course, there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and the others when doing club activities. And when I say others, Mion, Reina, and Satoko. And Rika. Yeah, doing club activities. Without us, the classroom after school was just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously as if I'd just gone to get something I'd forgotten, I casually went in the entrance. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. I didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quickly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. The empty room was full of a strange, stagnant air that you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, the desks creep about of their own accord, licking the floors clean of dirt. If I suddenly stepped into a place like that, would the desks, in their surprise, fly at me, crush my bones, and eat me alive? That's ridiculous. I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. Wow. The students' lockers were lined up in the back of the classroom. The one I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker. One I had accidentally discovered one day. Here it is, Hojo. This has to be it. If one person has one locker, then why would only Satoko have two? I had made a fuss about it once. Why would there be two lockers? I mean, can such... That's what I want to wonder. I made a fuss about it. Well, yeah, I would make a fuss. Too. After that, I learned it was Satoshi's locker, and he had the same last name as her. Of course, even though it was a locker for a student no longer here, looking inside it was still a shameless act. But one time I let my curiosity get the better of me, and took a peek inside. Inside, it was average and worthless. At the time, I hadn't been interested, so until now, I'd forgotten what had been in it. But now that I had, dare I say it, awakened, I remembered the thing that had been there. Scrape. I opened the locker and a stench of mold and sweat wafted out like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. Ooh, nasty. My face puckered up at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes, Satoshi was on the coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Hinamizawa fighter's uniform, and it, the one Satoshi used, the metal bat. Yes, this was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. This murder would be carried out by me, but this wasn't originally my role, it was Satoshi's. But I would stand in for him and call myself Satoko's Nini. Wait a sec. So the one who got bludgeoned the shit out of, the ant who got bludgeoned the shit out of would be Satoshi, I think. If Satoshi would want to bludgeon the shit out of his aunt to save his little sister, and Keiichi's going to bludgeon the shit out of her uncle too. Oh baby. I love this. Satoko's Nini. It was one of the rules for standing in for him. I mean, I could be predicting and shit, but I don't know. It was one of the rules for staying in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was light, and yet its tip had enough heft in it enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all my might. Who the hell is jingling bells? It's freaking annoying. With all my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I will stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. There's no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. Now, I just need to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow, before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it. Because I couldn't ignore the possibility someone would see me bringing it home and think it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't... Oh, excuse me. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus, tomorrow was Sunday. Not only that, it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. I left out the entrance and went over to a construction vehicle parked nearby. We'd been warned by our teacher not to touch it just for laughs, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it in the shadow of the vehicle. The chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow were slim to none, because tomorrow was Sunday. Government workers had the day off. And from what my classmates had said, the thing had been left here for years now. Machines that haven't been moved in years, you can't just suddenly start them up again. So I was almost definitely fine in this case. The sunlight was piercingly hot. My head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh for the entire day? A moment of dull thoughts like this was a moment of carelessness. I gave myself a couple hits in the head, then looked around warily. No words. Okay. Next, how to dispose of the corpse. Disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way not to create a beginning was to not let the corpse be found. It was even more important than killing him. Thinking on it vaguely, the first thing that came to mind was the swamp. Onikafuchi, the dreadful, bottomless swamp revered even now, that appeared in the legends of Onikafuchi village. Yes, the swamp called Onikafuchi was here first, and then the village took its name to become Onikafuchi Village. In other words, the swamp was the origin of Onikafuchi Village. No one, no matter who it was, would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed down into the land of the demons below the earth. That was how the stories went. If I was trying to copy Oyashiro-sama's curse, then I felt the theory demanded I discard the remains and the weapon into the swamp. But they may have said it's bottomless, but I didn't actually know. And people say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. It was why using fairly heavy objects to hold them people down didn't work. Oh my god, I keep brushing my goddamn mic. Holding people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse this year before last, Rika-chan's mother drowned herself in this swamp. And the criminal behind the dismemberment that went missing for the year of the first curse too, it was rumored he tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. I never heard of the corpse coming back up or them finding it. Then, shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse there too? I could discard the weapon there, and then, for example, if her uncle came out on the motorcycle and attacked, it would be convenient to get rid of the bike too. I knew that Satoko's uncle generally uses a motorcycle for transportation. But as for the corpse... After a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. The drowning, suicide, and accident were both rumors. Nobody knew if they'd actually happened. There were no lack of false rumors about the drowning suicide anyway, and it was possible the murderer hadn't drowned there and was still on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed the corpse being dropped in there and then not coming back up. Then what would I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident. Cut him to pieces and hide him. But, ooh.
But the preparation and work for dismembering the human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had. Oh, damn. With that out of the question, I arrived at the conclusion to go with the more orthodox method of burying the body. Then where I would bury it? Then where would I bury it? Where I would bury, oh my god, was a question related to where I would kill him. Of course, I wanted to keep my time and proximity to the body at the minimum. With that in mind, I wouldn't want to dig the hole to dump the body in beforehand, and to make the location of the act and the hole close together. The choice of where to plan the crime that I needed to be absolutely careful and thorough with. It had to be somewhere nobody would witness it. It had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, in a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head of the various destinations her uncle would head to from Satoko's house. I imagined a map of the area in my head, and then I found a place that fulfilled those conditions so easily it was almost unbelievable. A bit of the back road that went through the woods. I didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains of Higurashi on a whim. If he was going somewhere, he passed through these woods first, and nobody used this back way unless they had something to do at Satoko's house, or one or two other places. His path was fantastically ideal, as few people used it. I would wait for him in these woods. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went into the trees and tried really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses would be sharpened here to their maximum amount. I didn't know when he'd come, but I waited right here for Satoko's uncle. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'd be taking by luring him here? That man made Satoko do all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave unless I worked out a plan to force him to, would he? That was the question. Tomorrow was the Watanagashi festival. Would he go out for the festival, or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag his ass out of his house? How would I drag him out of his house? That's right. Wouldn't he make Satoko go to the festival? Satoko would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I would call the man. This is the Okonomiya police station. We have the young lady from your house. Could you come and pick her up immediately? It didn't even have to be the police. This is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come and pick her up. Yes, that would work too. If I claimed to be the police or the hospital, told him to come, and then hung up on him, he'd rush there trying to figure out what was going on, wouldn't he? And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't suddenly grumble about having to get his niece and not go. It would look like child neglect. The man had no skills useful around the house. Satoko, his slave, was an essential part of his daily life. Conclusion. If he went out to the festival, I would attack him here on his way there or back. If he didn't, I would lure his ass out by phone. I would lure him out by phone. If luring him out by phone was my first step, I needed to be sure Satoko would go to the festival, leaving the house. It would be convenient if I could take. Oh my god. It would be convenient if I could make Mion take Satoko to the festival. She said her aunt was a district welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation officer. If I somehow incited Mion to take Satoko to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use that fact and get her there. Satoko should just take a break and have fun at the festival with everyone. She should have a good time, reminisce on our former peaceful days, and when she went home, everything would be over. Yeah, that would be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body, so it wouldn't stand out, so it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me while I was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I had wanted it to be close to the scene of the crime, but it naturally grew farther away. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest, the voices of the Higurashi were the only sounds here, informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set a foot in this place. Digging a hole, huh? Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be far more difficult than I'd envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag, but that wouldn't be enough. Still, as I looked into various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow I'd bring a real shovel from the storeroom at home. I'd managed with that. I wondered how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way into it. Well, long enough so he can bury his dumbass alive. Make him like he's trapped into the abyss is all I want to care. I wonder how big a hole would be within a human all the way into it, blah blah blah. I probably had to dig pretty deep down, exactly. But if I was slipshod in these efforts, I'd let a beginning occur. I absolutely couldn't allow that. Use any amount of time you need to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This was probably all I was going to get done here for today. I really wanted to dig the hole in advance tonight even if it got dark out, but Mom would be upset if I stayed out that late. It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. I needed to go back home and give Mion a call soon. I needed to get her to promise Satoko to take her by tonight. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be, though? Was this really everything I could do to prepare right now? I decided where to kill him. I decided how to kill him. I decided, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on the time, but I would play that by ear. I didn't have a way to decide that. Was that really all? Was this really alright? Have I overlooked anything? Would this really go how I planned? After all this, worries started welling up one after another. It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime. I would not allow failure, and I had no experience as this was my first time. I didn't have the know-how, the knack, so it was only natural I'd be anxious. The dark clouds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way, a truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Satoko looked? From the outside, it may have looked like I was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking loudly. I've never actually won a single fight to my satisfaction. Could I really kill someone? Well, you were being a nutcase earlier. You can kill someone. I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was large and far older than me. He had a scary face, and he looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. Who the fuck? He's some old-ass motherfucker anyway. Oh, accustomed to fighting my ass. Could I have all the pieces before and after the murder were perfectly planned? But was the actual murder the most important part? What unsettled me the most? All my preparations, all my perfectly concealed machinations. If I didn't successfully murder him, they amounted to nothing. Damn it! After coming this far, you're pathetic, Keiichi Marbara. If you start to have these kinds of second thoughts, your ulterior motive will be anxious. Your ulterior motive will be obvious, I meant. Let's go home. Go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow will be a juncture in your life, the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth couldn't hold a candle to. A day of murder, to kill someone for someone else's sake. With that day behind us, we would take it back again. Those mild, spring-like days we never thought would stop. Those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bicycle hard to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really weren't where I felt them to be. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the Great Barrier I risked my future life on had nothing to do with me. An unreal sensation. How could I put it? Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease pre-meet you, Keiichi Mabara. If that will turn your timidity into meticulousness and allow you to act with greater caution, then it's actually an important emotion to feel. This feeling I had never went away that night. Well, I wanted to continue this, but damn. You know what? I'm gonna end this here. So next part, we're gonna continue more of this devious plan of murdering this fucker. So, like, comment, and subscribe, and see you guys later. Have a good one.